It doesn't matter if you live in United States, it's your first visit or you have visited many times. There is always some pretty interesting facts to know. I swear I always have learned something new about the US on every visit and I just have to share some gems that I thought you would find proper intriguing. First, New York was once New Amsterdam. Before New York was well New York, it was called New Amsterdam as a settlement by the Dutch that chose to settle in Manhattan. The name New York only came into being later in the 17th century when those pesky English who captured it. The name New York was to pay tribute to Duke of York, who helped it capturing it. Today, you can still see plaques of where New Amsterdam's wall was built in 1653. Definitely an interesting fact on Wall Street, no less, right? Second, there is a palace made totally out of corn. Yup, you can actually visit a life-size corn palace in the USA. It sounds like something legends are made of, but I assure you it's true. I couldn't quite believe it when I saw it in person. I mean, as a palace you can potentially eat. Not sure it beats the other empty Rushmore in scale, but it certainly does with kernels. Third, the Statue of Liberty speaks French. Okay, but the Statue of Liberty was actually a gift from the people of France to the United States in 1886, possibly the most iconic symbol of the United States. The Statue of Liberty is one iconic piece of history you have to see when in New York. Funnily enough, the US then decided to give the French a slightly smaller Statue of Liberty as a gift 3 years later. This can now be proudly standing at Pont de Grenelle in Paris. Maybe the American version talks with a New York twang. Fourth, Alaska was once Russian. Back in the earlier parts of the 19th century, Alaska wasn't part of the USA. In fact, it was a part of Russia. It wasn't until it was sold off to the Americans that it became a US territory. It wasn't until almost 100 years later, in 1959, that Alaska actually became a state. The state now has numerous national parks and even the tallest mountains in the USA, called Denali. Fifth, the Liberty Bell is from London, possibly one of the US most symbolic pieces from American independence. The Liberty Bell still survives for you all us to visit. Perched in the Liberty Bell Center in Pennsylvania, it's a spot where you can learn more about American independence and such. Interestingly and pretty unusual facts, the Liberty Bell was actually made in the same place as Big Ben in London. The Whitechapel Bell Foundry made both bells and is one of the oldest privately owned bell makers in the world. You can still visit the Whitechapel Bell Foundry today. Just make sure you can get access the pond to London. There's a shop inside a dinosaur's tummy. The dinosaurs of Carbazian were originally created to entice customers to a restaurant. Now they have become a thing to see in their own right. These caged dinosaurs are a nostalgic throwback to the 1970s. Nowadays, you can still visit the dinosaurs and even shop within the tummy of tiny dinosaurs. 7. The Golden Gate Bridge never stops getting a makeover. Interesting facts about San Francisco. Did you know that the Golden Gate Bridge is one of the West Coast's most iconic man made landmarks that have forever been made over? It's one amazing place to see, especially from the Golden Gate Bridge vista point. Due to its sheer size, the bridge actually never stops getting painted and is always getting itself a little makeover for all to enjoy. 8. London Bridge is in Arizona. Now, almost 200 years ago, this was the case, but things changed with time. By the 1960s, city of Lake Havasu, Arizona was on the scout for a new bridge, and hearing that London Bridge was up for auction, decided to put in a bid to bring it to their city. After all, who wouldn't want those iconic towers and opening arches, right? Ninth, you can find lots of secret spots in New York. Places like City Hall Station are stunning, and although you can't always visit them, they do exist beneath the sidewalks. The whole city is awash with little nooks and alleys that are hidden in plain sight. 10th, there are 43 giant presidential heads. Now, if that isn't one of the most interesting facts, Hidden in Houston, Texas, was one of the most bizarre sights to see. Giant presidential heads. Among around 15 feet high, there is a whole heap of these carved presidential heads that once called an old parking lot home. I mean, it was sight to be behold, especially in such an underwhelming parking lot. Rumor has it, they have now made their way to Croker, Virginia. Whatever the case, there are still some heads. The USA has the longest cave system in the world. Just scratch the surface of the Kentucky and you will came across some incredible natural sights to explore. For example, the Mammoth Cave National Park actually has the longest cave system in the world and a place that's great to visit. 12th, the North Pole is in Alaska. The tiny town of North Pole in Alaska is a Christmassy little place that embraces everything festive 365 days a year. Visit Santa in his grotto, see the elves at work, and die down Santa Claus Lane. I mean, who knows there was a North Pole in the USA? 13. Hawaii is the only archipelago state. Hawaii is an incredibly beautiful volcanic archipelago consisting of numerous islands that each have their own charm. Interestingly, it is one of the only US states that's solely made up of islands. And the last is that is 14th fact there is a Wigwam hotel to stay in. First created in 1950s Arizona, the Wigwam Hotel is a total nostalgic area of quirky hotels from times gone by. Still to this day, you can rock up and stay for the night. Just make sure to book in advance and the rooms fill up fast. So friends, these were the facts about US that you might be not aware of. So please let us know how do you like the video and please consider subscribing to this channel if you do like the content. Thanks.